welcome to another episode of Creatives in Focus. I am Victoria Bola Okerinde. On Creatives in Focus, we discuss the journey to excellence and creating for impact. I will be bringing to you conversations with creatives and founders with real and relatable stories. These amazing individuals are excelling in their fields, doing good, and actively working in their own way to create impact. This week, I had the honor and the absolute pleasure to interview a world-known creative leader. She is an author, a speaker, an educator, a creative director, as well as a social entrepreneur. I had the pleasure on this episode to interview Chrissy Levett. She is the founder of Creative Conscience, a global platform that empowers, educates, and enables creative thinkers to really facilitate and think about how they can create social and environmental impact. On this episode, we spoke about Chris's journey from the creative industry into social entrepreneurship. She gives us some fantastic steps and tips on how you can be a change maker and impactful in any way you choose, whether it be in business, whether it be as a student, or as a social enterprise. Chrissy also gives some fantastic advice for anyone who's interested in starting up a project, a social enterprise, or going into the creative industry with a vision to create for impact. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for joining me on the Creatives in Focus podcast. Like I said before, what an honor to have you. You are a speaker, author, educator, and the founder of the social enterprise Creative Conscience. And yes, I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Victoria. We're really excited to be here too.
You're welcome.
I always say because we're a community, so
Yes,
I am very excited.
I do the exact same thing as well. So for some of our listeners out there who may not really be aware of you or your work, can you let us know how you actually got into the creative industry? Because like I mentioned, you have a few things under your belt as a speaker, as an educator. So can you let us know just a little bit about how you got into the creative industry?
Okay, so at school, I was basically rubbish. I wasn't academic, and I didn't really have much choice but to follow a creative path. So the only thing I could do personally was draw. I just drew and built and made things. And so that just kind of led me into the kind of path of going to do a foundation and then on to an art school and then to another art school. And from there, I just ended up working freelance pretty much for my entire career, actually, until I was in my mid-40s when I had to take a role as the creative director and then became the board member of an agency.
Oh, wow.
That wouldn't let me stay as an independent practitioner. So I really didn't get my first PAY job until I was probably middle-aged. Which I kind of like. I like the fact that I was sort of unemployable, I suppose. So that's really galloping through. That's what happened.
Yeah, fantastic. And sort of what has been a defining moment for you in terms of your career or personal personal life? I mean, before we speak about your vision for Creative Conscience.
So I think a defining moment for me was giving a client presentation when I was working at that agency that I just told you about.
Yeah.
We were commissioned to do a job. We did basically my job. We did branding and new product development and lots of work in like premium luxury goods, sort of from booze to chocolate to all sorts of things. But this particular company was, I'm not going to name them, but they were a large, well-known dairy manufacturer. And their head office was based in Denmark, actually. Yeah, in Denmark. And we had to come up with the whole sort of structure, the packaging, the branding and everything for a brand new product.
Mm.
And what was really exciting in terms of the opportunity was that they were going to change their entire factory line
Mm.
to create this new product. Now, as sort of designers, product designers, creatives, it's quite rare that you get that opportunity, like the birth of something from the point of its manufacturing, because
Yeah.
that's where the largest investment came. And when we got the job, I was super, super excited because I thought we can make a real difference.
Mm.
This was probably about 10 years ago. There were new stuff, new products and materials coming onto the market that were biodegradable,
Mm.
that weren't made from plastic. And I knew the perils of plastic it was kind of pre David Attenborough kind of banging on about it on the BBC. It wasn't on people's radars. And
Mm.
so I thought, well, this is our opportunity.
Mm.
We did all this amazing work, lots of structural work, product design, and then the branding. And we went to present this with the client over in Denmark. And I remember it so, so well, Victoria. I kind of stood up. We'd done a lot of the branding and the digital work on screens. And I kind of stood up. And there was this sort of group of, clients around, and our
Mm-hmm.
clients, there was this team around. And I stood up and I said, okay, people, here we go. And I started to talk about the structural work.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we have an amazing opportunity right now.
Mm.
We can lead the market and create a product that is not going to destroy our future and the future of generations to come.
Mm.
And the room went very quiet. And I just kept talking about this was an amazing opportunity. Imagine if we could do this, and still quiet.
Mm.
And I started to get a little bit nervous about what I was saying, but then I believed in it and I kept on talking. Still nothing from the room. I could sort of hear bottoms shuffling and papers moving. And suddenly there was a sort of squeal from someone. And I looked around and it was one of our client services team who stood up and sort of started babbling on nervously around, product costs and this and that and budgets and things. And it really threw me off guard. And I kind of sort of carried on with the presentation and sat down and just in that moment felt completely disappointed and sad.
Mm. Mm.
So we got back to London the kind of following day, or I got back into the office the following day, and I was called up in front of our MD, our managing director. And basically he said to me, you are never ever to talk about that stuff to any of our clients. It's not your place and you don't have the right to do that. And I walked out of his office and I thought, this is super messed up. And so for me, that was really the moment when I thought, this isn't right. What I was doing, what I was creating was basically getting people to buy stuff they didn't need, plop, basically, landfill. And I was destroying my future and the future of my children and countless other people's futures. And that was really around that same time as when I came up with the idea of this creative conscience platform, and then just started talking to people about it and built a community, and that's where it came from. But what's really interesting about that story is that it hadn't come from the client. It had come from one of our own team.
Yeah.
Who was living in fear.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that I would say it was a massive moment of like, this is super messed up, as creatives, as agencies, as you're employed to take people on a journey and to innovate and to make a difference in the world. And if we're being told to shut up and sit down, then what hope do we have, any of us?
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, Definitely a turning point, and kind of, after sort of realizing that perhaps, you wanted to do more, sort of how did you take the steps to actually birth Creative Conscience, and why the title Creative Conscience?
Yeah, well, I don't know. What happened was, at the same time that that stuff was going on,
Mm.
I was doing a course, a landmark course called it was a self-expression and leadership course. And
Mhm.
that was a course where you, over a series of a few months, built a community project.
Mhm.
And so I was working on that sort of in my own time, just as sort of part of, self-development or what have you.
Mhm.
And the day one of the course, you kind of did a whole load of things and you wrote things down, and then you had to go away. And I went
Mm.
away from the first day, and the following morning, I used to kind of go to the gym a bit. Obviously, I don't now. I went to the gym and I was on a treadmill or something, and it just came to me. That's
Mm.
what it's going to be called, creative conscience. And it was all really about trying to shift our industry from this sort of broken capitalist kind of consumption model
Mhm.
into something else.
Mm.
And so that was going on at the same time as I was working at this agency. And then I was on the board, and they got me in. We had a board meeting, and they'd asked me to try and get our agency in the press. And I'd reached out
Mm.
to a few people, and of course, we were no different from any other design agency on the planet. We were just creating stuff, not really.
Mm.
And I said, well, sadly, the press don't want to talk about us because we're no different from any other agency. But I'm doing this project outside of work, and
Mm.
it's going to be called Creative Conscience, and it's going to be at this platform. We're going to encourage people to use their superpowers for good. Maybe if you want to get involved in that, that would mean that we would have something different to talk about, and therefore the
Yeah.
press would write about us. And all the board members, at that time, they were all men over 30, and they were kind of like, oh no, there's no return on investment, and
Mm.
no, we don't want to get involved in that. I said, fine, yeah, that's cool, it's happening, whatever. And then 3 months later, obviously the project had been created and it had started, and we had another board meeting, and they sort of quite patronizingly sort of said to me, oh, how's your little project going? I said, yeah, it's really amazing. We've got all these fantastic people involved, like Sir Jonathan Porritt and Sir Quentin Blake and
Mm.
Helen Story, who's an amazing, UN advocate for sustainability and a fashion designer, and this person and that person. And then, of course, they were in. Like, once they realized the potential of it,
Yes. Yeah.
and then that, and good for them, actually, because as an agency, then they gave it some support with some downtime of people,
Mm.
and we kind of built a kind of clunky platform, and then
Mhm.
we just stuck it out there.
Mm.
And it was about being creative and having a conscience. It was
Mm.
simple as that, really.
Yeah, like amazing, amazing. And you've been running for about 8 years now, I believe. Started off in 2012.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just incredible. Like, while doing my research and reading up, I'm looking at your website. I see that you're involved in so many things, like encouraging creatives and supporting them and giving rewards and ensuring that they have the tools to apply their talents, to either create or be involved in projects that promote sustainability and human rights and social health and well-being. And it's just so incredible. Yeah, and kind of moving into what we're currently in at the moment. So at the moment, we're just kind of moving our way through this pandemic, seeing a light out of the tunnel. And this pandemic has shaken a lot of industries, especially including the creative industry. Um, I do believe that more than ever, creative thinking is needed, and there's a real need for innovation and change and impact. So I would like to ask, like, what is your experience, or what do you feel creative thinking and innovation can bring post-pandemic for the creative industry?
Wow. Well, we know, don't we, that the system's broken, because we
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be the most highly prescribed, drugs, mental health issues, you know, health
Mm-hmm.
issues, obesity, all the things that are going wrong in our society. We're the most miserable, you know, group of human beings in the developed world, since the dawn of time,
Yeah.
probably. So we know the system isn't working right.
Mm,
And
mm,
my personal feeling around COVID-19 is that it was really nature fighting back. That you
mm,
cannot continue to kind of rape and pillage
mm,
our beautiful planet, the thing that keeps us alive, without something going off.
mm,
Um, and so I think it's an amazing moment in history. Obviously, it's terrible for anyone who might have lost a loved one. I believe this is a massive opportunity for the
mm,
world, not
mm.
just the UK, but for the entire world, to wake up and
Yeah.
think about, right, how can we do this differently. And I
Mm-hmm.
read a stat the other day that said 6% of people in the UK do not want it to go back to how it was before.
Mm,
Or do want it to go back to how it was before. Only 6%. That's a very small minority.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
people have learned amazing things during this time, positive things.
Mm-hmm. Mm,
But
mm,
there's a lot of fear. And there's a lot of
mm.
fear because fear comes out of an uncertainty.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah.
but the trouble with fear is fear shuts us down and it stops us taking action. And we have to take action now. It's
Mm,
really, really important that we rise up and we see this is an amazing opportunity. There's
mm,
a wonderful, wonderful Stanford economist called Paul Romer who said a crisis is a terrible thing to waste.
mm.
I believe he won a Nobel Prize or something, a few years. Brilliant man. And this is a crisis, and we really mustn't waste it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is the time for startups, for innovators, for entrepreneurs, for people who think differently, to do things differently.
Yeah.
Sadly, a number of people will have lost their jobs or become
Mm,
redundant, or they're being furloughed at the moment, but they then might become redundant. So take this time to learn what you can, to do as much as you can, build your
mm,
skills, do things that you've never done before, step out of your comfort zone. This
mm-hmm.
is absolutely the time to be the bravest you have ever been.
Mm,
Because if you are, there is a massive, massive opportunity. That's what I believe. I
mm.
mean, we train this stuff, we do this stuff anyway, as an organization. We run workshops. We've done 10, 15, probably more free workshops and webinars to people that can come on board and listen and learn what's possible and what they can do right now. We've got a summer
Mm.
school coming up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of amazing things that can come out of this.
Mm.
And I hope that our industry will be braver,
Yeah.
will 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 have those conversations with their clients
Mm.
and let their clients know that now's the time to change systems. Now's the time to move away from broken old ways of being and create a new, fairer, healthier, more just
Yes.
society for everyone. And if we can do that, we can do that really fast.
Mm.
We have a hope.
Mm. Mm.
And without hope, there's no reason to be, I don't think. We've
Mm.
got to remain hopeful. We absolutely have to.
Mm. Thank you so much, Chrissy. Wow.
Sorry, that was good as
Amazing.
that.
No, amazing. So amazing. I'm like, oh my God, so many words. No, but that was so good. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I get kind of overwhelmed. I'm kind of excited and passionate, and also,
Yeah.
all the things that go around, desperate,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
fast,
I
inspiring.
yeah, it is a time, it is a very unique time that we're in. We have never seen anything like it. And like you mentioned, this is a time to take action. And we have seen across the world a number of causes, being action, call for action, call for justice, call for equality. And yeah, I think it's the time where everyone is paying attention. Everyone has to sit and listen to and look at what has been going on around them. So indeed, this is a unique time, and it's also, like you mentioned, a time for individuals, companies, and more to look within and see how they're running, how they're doing in terms of actually ensuring that their work, their products, their service is actually impacting people, and doing good. So yeah, I mean, you've said quite a lot of amazing things, and yeah, this is a time to take action. We've been giving. I know it's been quite devastating, this pandemic, but we've been given a unique opportunity to really look within and see how we can move forward, how we can innovate, um, as individuals, as a country, and more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, you've given us a few pointers in terms of individuals actually taking the time to build their skills, and do more good. So, I would like to ask, especially for our listeners who are looking to start up a project or looking to run a business, some of the simple steps to ensure that their passion project is actually impactful, and creating sustainable change. So my first question is, where do I start? So I'm looking to create change. I'm a creative, or I have a business. Where do I start?
Wow. Yeah. Where do you start? You start with a why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why do you want to change something? Always start with a why, and then I think it's the how and the what, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you know Simon Sinek's work around the golden circle, it's a brilliant TED talk. Check that out. So start with the why. I mean, in our workshops where we get people to sort of start building an impact project on social and environmental change,
Mm-hmm.
we get them to play a bit of a game. So we get them to write down all the things that they love doing, like all the things that they're passionate about. And that can
Mm-hmm.
be creative things, but it could be less creative things. You know, it could be
Mm-hmm.
watching, it could be, drawing or writing. It doesn't really matter. And then we get them to look at the complaints that they have in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have complaints, right? None of us
Yes,
isn't that.
definitely.
So we get people to, like, write their complaints. And actually, a few years ago, I did a TEDx talk on this very thing, where I was asked to try and engage a community
Mm.
to take action. So that you could watch that if you want to get inspired in this sort of area at all. But and then we get people to kind of mash those two things together.
Mm.
And the reason we get people to focus on what they love doing is that if you want to create what we would call a side hustle, because you might have a job, right? You're
Yeah.
doing something, it's your day job,
Mm-hmm.
and you might want to build this in the same way that I personally did with Creative Conscience. It was kind of my side hustle that then
Mm-hmm.
became my work. So you don't, it's step by step. Don't expect to suddenly create something and run out into the world necessarily at sort of take off. I mean, that's not impossible,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
step by step. But start with the why. Start with what you love against what's not working for you.
Mm.
And why it's important to choose something you love is that it is going to be more fun. You're going to be passionate about it. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to love doing it because it's something you love doing. And
Mm.
therefore, the chances are that it will be successful.
Mm. Mm.
So it's
Thank
really important, the why and the connecting something you love with something that isn't working for you.
you.
Those are really powerful. Those are three things that I would say are the first steps to take.
Mm. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think starting from a why is very important because it's something that you can always look back to as well. You know, if for some reason, and like you've mentioned, you know, the journey is not easy, but if for some reason you're discouraged or you're actually just reviewing some of the steps that you've taken, you can go back to your why and be like, am I kind of staring away from my vision, or am I walking in line with the vision for my project, my company, and my vision to impact? So yeah, definitely.
I'm sure
Um,
you're doing that yourself, right? This is all with your podcast,
yes,
creative
yes.
your platform and what you're doing.
Yeah.
That you've got to be, you've got to have your why there. There was a why, wasn't there, for you? Otherwise,
Mm,
you never would have done it. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and you know, every month, I think I'm always kind of asking myself sort of why, because similar to you, and similar to a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, they have full-time jobs.
yeah,
They are either full-time working stay-at-home mums and taking care of their kids full-time. So you know, pursuing this passion project is not easy, but it's important to have something that motivates you and keeps you going. And you having a vision and knowing that, okay, every experience that I have, whether it's my full-time job, whether it's me learning and building this company or doing this podcast, is all working towards my goal of, you know, my vision. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And it's so many entrepreneurs and people start up stuff as a kind of side hustle. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, not many people just suddenly, launch into something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
probably have to be pretty bonkers. And like I said, it's not impossible, but most people will step by step, step by
Yes,
step, yeah,
yes.
and do it as a part time. Maybe it starts as a hobby, and then it moves,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then at some point it will become, a tipping point where you think, right, this is what I'm going to do, and that's when you take the leap of faith. Then once
Mm,
you build maybe
mm,
a few followers and a few this and that, and the
mm-hmm.
community is really important.
Yes.
Make
Yeah.
something happen.
Yeah.
Network, community, get yourself a mentor, all
Mm,
sorts of things. Ask for help. Be vulnerable enough to ask for help.
yeah.
Um, Another thing
Yeah.
that I had to learn. I was too proud. Didn't I thought asking for help was a weakness.
Mm,
But we know through the amazing work of Dr. Brene Brown, and her books like The Power of Vulnerability. It's
mm,
you know there's there's magic in being vulnerable and asking for help. There really is.
mm, mm, mm. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
you.
how you're welcome. How do we ensure that the change that we're working towards is actually sustainable and continues to do good? Because you've mentioned, and just doing more research on creative conscience, you actually have awards for young individuals who have amazing ideas and want to change the world or want to change something
Yeah.
in their industry. But how do you ensure that that change is sustainable and it continues to do good?
Well, that comes through again through getting the right people around you, the network, the
Mm,
support system. It's
mm,
all, no one does, I don't care who you are, Richard Branson or Tony Robbins or whoever,
mhm.
no one does this alone. No one does. And
Mm,
it's silly to think that any one person can change the world. It comes
mhm,
through community. It comes through networks, friends, mentors. It
mhm,
comes from a place of love ultimately.
mm,
And if
mm,
you've got a really good idea that is going to make the world a better place,
mhm,
and you're brave enough to put yourself out there, and you're vulnerable enough to ask for help, you can and you will succeed.
mm, mm,
You've got to believe that. And
mm.
sustainability is an interesting one. I mean, I'm not a business person. I don't know how to do that at all. But it's by having a community around me of very diverse people as well. Diversity, I
Yeah,
mean, that's something that's really important,
indeed.
especially
Yeah.
now in the world where, you know, women have been had misjustices, forced on them for centuries and centuries, and then
Mm,
racial diversity and age
mhm,
diversity is absolutely vital.
mm,
So make sure that you have a really diverse community. Don't just ask people to join in with you who have the same values or the same necessary ideas as you or
Yes.
skills. I'm reading an amazing book at the moment. I say reading, I can't read basically because I'm dyslexic, but I listen to books now. And this is by a guy called Matthew Side, and it's called Rebel Ideas, and it's all about diversity, and it's just magical.
Mm,
So yeah, get a really good community around you of diverse minds, diverse people, people that you respect and trust for all sorts of different reasons, and then the
mm,
chances are that you will become and can create a sustainable model.
mm,
And it also depends, or goes back to the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you're doing
mm,
it to become a millionaire, then what you need to look for is very different from if you don't really care about the money, but you really want to make a massive impact in the world.
mm,
Then you're going to have a different type of mentor or a different type of training,
mm,
then it kind of depends on the why you're doing what you want to do.
mm,
But
mm,
anything is possible. I absolutely believe that, Victoria. Anything is possible. Look,
mm,
we've built this global platform from nothing, with nothing, no marketing plan,
mm.
no marketing budget. And to date, we've had over 4,000 projects from young people,
Amazing.
more than
Wow.
70 nationalities, from anything from architecture to fashion, textiles, graphics, photography, film, you
Mm,
name it. And at the
mm,
heart of every single one of those projects is the idea of creating a healthier, fairer, better world.
mm,
Now, if that's possible with nothing, think what you could do if you had a really tight, brilliant business model.
mm,
You know, I do believe that anything is possible. Absolutely believe that.
mm. Thank you. Amazing. Amazing. Um, and you actually touched on entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and starting up and you mentioned that you may not consider yourself as a business person, but you are a social entrepreneur. So how do we as creatives and entrepreneurs strike a balance between social impact and profit? Because I mean, from your personal experience, how do you strike a balance? Because there's sometimes that you may have to compromise, especially when it comes to for example, a sustainable brand, a fashion sustainable brand. You
Yeah.
know, their values are, we want to use sustainable fabrics, or our packaging has to be sustainable. However, they won't be able to sell at the prices that a majority of people may be able to afford. So like,
Mm.
that's just an example. How do you actually strike a balance between social impact and making sure that you're making a profit and growing as a business, as an
Yeah.
enterprise? Yeah.
Well, firstly, you we have to educate people in the value of what they buy. So that's the first thing.
Mm,
If people continue to go to Primark and buy things that are basically destroying their future, which is what we teach. I always, when we do lectures and stuff, and we go around and we do some webinars and stuff, we talk about drinking, people buying their clothes from Primark, they're basically drinking their own poison. They're putting
mm,
a nail in their own coffin, right? So I
mm,
think part of, if you have a sustainable fashion brand, part of your role is to educate your audience through storytelling the reason
mm,
why it costs this much, right? So it's partly about education
mm,
and being able to tell a really compelling story.
mm,
And the, the, in order to tell a story that people remember, you have to connect with them on an emotional level,
mm.
right? So
Yeah.
what is it? Is it the story of the boy in India who is, in the sweatshop? Or is
Mhm,
it, the truth about what's going on around the waste of and the pollutants of fast fashion? I mean, I don't, you have to be able to engage people through stories,
mm,
and people
mm,
need to understand that there is no such thing as it being cheap,
mm,
because it's costing someone something. It's not cheap to you, but at some point along that manufacturing chain, it's costing your future. It's costing that child who's working the sweatshop. It's costing the planet. You know, there are costs associated. There's no such thing as cheap. And if you buy something that is unique and well made and costs a bit more, then it will last a lifetime. So I mean, it's difficult with fashion. I would suggest that we just need to consume in a conscious way. We need to stop consuming in the way that we're consuming. We need to really think about how we behave. How do you get people to stop going to the shops as an addiction? Because that's what it is. Shopping's an addiction. It's no different from alcoholism or, you know, heroin, really. People would be shocked that I said that, but it isn't. You're told that you're not good enough, and so you go to the shop to buy something to make you feel better, and when you buy it you get a hit of dopamine, and then you come home and within like a day that dopamine's hit, it's gone, and you've got a cupboard full of clothes that you probably don't need. You've got more than could last you a lifetime, and yet you still continue to go back week in, week out. You know, imagine what it would be like if you didn't do that and you kept that money and you saved up and you did an amazing experience.
Yeah.
With a group of friends, or you learned something new. You learned how to make something or build something or create something instead of this weird addiction to this sort of dopamine that we get from consumption. It's a really massive issue, Victoria. There's an amazing system called the donut economy. Your listeners could check that out, because that's about a completely closed loop economy where society supports people and planet. It's an amazing system. That's one way. But yeah, I'm sort of ranting on a bit again as well, because it's just a
not at all
conscious sort of stream. But I tell you one thing, and we know this because we've got the data and the research to back this up, is that if you choose to use your time and your talent and your energy in service of other people, building a social enterprise or a charity or a community project or whatever it is, you will get a better sense of self-esteem and mental well-being. And so we've got an epidemic in the so-called developed world of mental health issues, especially with young people. It's crazy. So for us, we want to get into education. We want to teach social and environmental impact, because not only will it make the world a better place, it will make us better. It will make us feel better. It will, and if we feel better, we won't want to unconsciously buy more crap and eat more sugar and destroy ourselves and everything around us. You know, it's just got mad. We're just living in this crazy world right now, and where there's, you know, something that isn't working, there is a massive opportunity to shift that. I'm sort of excited.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. Amazing. No, but you've got so much knowledge and experience, so yeah, and like your passion definitely shows through. Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of what you said, you know, is great, because especially from a business perspective, it's not only, you know, selling and offering your product, is also offering value, and like you said, also educating people. And if your value is to ensure that your brand is sustainable, your brand is doing good for the environment, you should also look at educating people who may not be there at the moment in terms of making ethical choices in their buying. So yeah, I fully agree with that, and that is something that I do try to encourage anyone listening who's thinking of starting up a business, is really working on storytelling and understanding how you can add value to people, how you can show your values, and hopefully as you bring them on as customers or users of your service, then they can learn and they can go out and do good as they're adopting your values. Thank you.
And there are brands, there's brands and organizations that do the right thing, and they are successful and they make money.
Money.
Look at Patagonia, look at North Face. They ran an anti-consumption. They actively went out to encourage people not to buy their stuff, but to make do, to mend it, to bring it back to the store, to get it fixed and stuff. And their profit and their sales went through the roof. If you really have the right thing at the core of what you do for the right reasons, you will be successful. We have to kind of let go of this old idea of profit and margins, and we just gotta come at it from a place of love, and really believe that it's possible, and it absolutely is.
Thank you. So just moving on to your experience as your leader in the creative industry, and you've got tons of experience. Do you have any advice for females who want to take up leadership positions? It doesn't have to be in the creative industry. It's just what you mentioned earlier in our conversation is actually sort of being in spaces where a majority of the leaders there, a majority of the decision makers were male. So can you give us sort of any thoughts, any advice for females who want to take up leadership positions?
Well, for a start, I think this is our moment. I think, we know that the world isn't working, and predominantly the world is being dominated by guys. And don't get me wrong, I love guys. I've got 4 big brothers. I've got tremendous respect for men and guys, but I think that it's not balanced leadership. It's just not balanced. So we know it's not balanced, and we know it's not working. So again, where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I'm an accidental leader. I don't think people in our industry would think that I'm a leader, or maybe they would. I don't know. I think I'm probably more of a maverick, and I frighten people a bit because I'm not willing to sort of sit back and just take what I'm told. It is about being brave. And I did a webinar recently with a load of young people, and they said, yeah, that's great, but how do you become brave? How do you get to be brave? You get to be brave by being willing to be vulnerable. And you've got to step into the arena. So what's the worst that can happen? Someone, you might look a bit stupid, or someone might call you a name, or so what? It doesn't matter, does it? No one has the right to criticize you unless they are in the arena with you, and those people who tend to criticize aren't. So just get out there, girls. This is our moment. And also, what was interesting, and I might have this wrong, don't quote me on it, but I think I read something a little while ago, probably about a year ago, around there are more women social startups and entrepreneurs successful that are women in their 50s or something. There's this huge swathe, and I think that's partly because us ladies might have had a family, or might have had a career, and then we've got to sort of 40 something or whatever, and had a midlife crisis and thought, what am I doing? What you've got all this great knowledge, and you might even have a bit of something behind you that you can afford to go, I'm not doing this anymore, like I did, and your value system changes, and you realize you don't probably need the salary that you currently had, and you can get by with a lot less, and you can do stuff, and the reward of that, and the freedom that you have for being your own boss, and not working for the man, that that's just amazing. So again, I would say, if you're a woman and you want to make a difference, and you might not even consider yourself to be a leader, but I'm sure you are, and you can be, get a mentor.
Yes.
be a female mentor. It could be, it couldn't be. There's an amazing organization. I'm going to do a shout out for it now, called She
Okay.
Said.
She said, okay.
She says, I think,
Mm-hmm.
yes, She Says. And it's a global community of female creatives, and it's all run on love. It's an amazing network. I know the two ladies who set it up. One was from advertising, one's more strategy. I'm very happy to share with you loads of this stuff. Actually, if you have any, when your podcast goes out, if you need any stuff, I can give you loads of stuff to go in your sort of show notes. Check out She Says. It's a global community, a kind of free organization that anyone can join, and they have groups in different parts of the world popping up, doing stuff, supporting each other. So that's actually, that would be a good place to try and find a mentor, or, you know, ask on LinkedIn, just go, I'm looking for a mentor, and you'll be surprised how many people are willing to help you. And you could also have a mentor for different things.
Yes. Yes.
Have a mentor for you know, personal development or leadership, or how do I, you know, don't be afraid to have a, you know, a whole team, whole team of mentors, you know, there cheering you on. I mean, I currently have 2 mentors. There you go. So we're none of us are complete, and nor will we ever be. So it's always good to have a mentor. And they'll come and go, and you might change them, and that's fine. Check that organization out. They're
She
brilliant.
Says, fantastic.
I'll send you the link as well for that.
Thank you.
Any of your people are interested, I can give I can send you also a free digital copy of a book called Ignite Female Changemakers.
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
So that's a freebie that I offer to all your people. I'll send it to
you.
You can have it, you can give it out to whoever, and that's specifically 50 women from around the world. I did one chapter in it who've all written about changing their life and the life of those people around them. And it was #1 Amazon bestseller in
amazing
or something. So you can have that for free. There you go.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. Amazing. And I'm sure like a lot of we'll put it out, and a lot of people will be excited to access that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
You are you are welcome. You are welcome. So I mean, you've mentioned sort of the training and some of the work that you've been doing with Creative Conscience, and you mentioned the summer course that's actually going to be running from July. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what the course, what people can gain from the course, and when this goes out, hopefully there'll be a little bit of time to apply. If not, they can keep an eye out for the next round.
Sure. Well, it's kicking off on the 21st of July. It's called Creative Summer School, and it runs, it's very, very part-time. So it's sort of sessions, every live webinar sessions every sort of other week, and then coaching calls in between. And it's really to get people kick-started in either building their project or their idea that's already started, or building a project from scratch. Again, we're picking people, you can apply, but we're picking people from different parts of the world with different backgrounds, different diversity. And then it's going to be quite a small cohort. It's not like hundreds of people. It'll be really manageable, so you get to know everyone within the course. And yeah, it's just loads of fun. And by the end of that, you will have a project, or even the start of a social enterprise. So that's what we promise you if you're fully engaged. And also, if you don't, and you're not happy with any of it, we'll 100% give you your money back for the course. So that's the promise to you. So there's no worry about that. And then we're doing it all live, but the plan is that we will develop it in the autumn into online course, which will be just videos rather than live. So this might be the last time that you could get the kind of live bit, which I would recommend if you can.
Okay.
Really, really interested in people from diverse backgrounds, different ethnicities, all sorts of people. Really important for us to have that. And yeah, lots of women, hopefully.
Yeah.
Men
yes,
are welcome.
definitely. Men are welcome as well.
Of course, always welcome.
Or any yeah. So yeah, amazing. And it's really great that that is available for people to really go through, and you really kind of be an environment that can they can bounce off ideas with other creatives and other innovators. So yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing more about the course and some of the amazing projects that will come out of the summer school. So just to round up, so what advice would you give to creatives that want to be more socially and environmentally aware with their work and actually create impact?
Okay, so you've got to have hope. You've got to really understand that what you as an individual in the world can do is change the world. So that's absolutely possible. We know it to be true because we've got countless examples of people who've done it. Like young people starting out, as well as kind of people who've been in a career for 30, 40 years. So have hope. Ask yourself why. Why do I exist in the world? Why do I get up and go to work and do what I do? Why? Keep asking yourself that. And then focus on what you love. Write that list of whys, write that list of what you love doing, and it will come to you. It absolutely will. Meditate on it, go for a walk, go for a run, be in nature. Something will ping if you focus on the why and your love of doing something. And then lastly, you have to be in action. You just can't sit at home moaning about the world unless you're willing to take action. And if you do, magical things will happen. Absolutely guarantee that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chrissy. I mean, it's amazing, and all the wisdom that you have offered and given us. I mean,
about that.
yeah, no, you have no certain. I mean, you have such, such knowledge and experience, and amazing listening and hearing everything that you have for us today. So how can we connect, for our listeners, for anyone who's watching, how can we connect with Creatives in Conscious, and how can we contact you if need be? Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to find me personally, I'm on LinkedIn under Chrissy, Chrissy Levett, Levett. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I don't have a fancy pantsy account. I'm not Premier WhatsApp because I think that's sort of a bit weird. So you can write to me there. Creative Conscience is just, if you write to hello@creative, and then just a little dash, conscience.org.uk. I promise you, if you write to us, someone will write back. You can follow us on Instagram at CC Changemakers. You can follow us on Twitter at CC Changemakers. And you can find us on FaceAche, as I call it. Just it's definitely a FaceAche. You can find us there. We post loads. We've got a YouTube channel as well, Creative Conscience, where we post little things up there, little videos and things that might inspire you. Create loads of creative projects. So just track us down. We're a really lovely community. We've got a huge network from people all around the world. We are here to be in service. That's absolutely our mission, is to help other people and be in service. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. It's been such a pleasure having you. And yes, I'm really excited to share this conversation with our audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an amazing episode. I really enjoyed and got a lot from my conversation with Chrissy. This interview just definitely highlighted her knowledge and experience. So yes, we will be adding a few resources in our show notes. You can click the link and you can access the free book. And if you've enjoyed this episode, do please comment down below, like and share. Yes, we want to keep this conversation going as well. And you can also connect with us on our social media platforms, on Instagram at Creatives in Focus, on Twitter at Creatives in Focus, and you can subscribe to this channel. What are you waiting for? Subscribe to this channel. And yes, until next time, influence change and create for impact.